It's all right, man.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, that's not good.
Don't stand there.
Yeah. How's everyone doing? Good? Good. Merry advanced Christmas. My name's Naji, and
My name is Richard. I'm an online community manager here at Monzo.
we're 2/3 of the community team. Thank you for coming tonight. The Christmas party caps off a pretty incredible 12 months of community events and activity that we've had. So tonight is a bit of a celebration of that. Before Tom joins us for a short presentation and Q&A, we just wanted to do a kind of quick look back over some of the highlights that have been really great for us over the last year.
So, Naji, what have some of the highlights been?
Well, I think we have a few videos to share of those, Rich.
Cool. I'll take you through a little slideshow we've prepared of
Yeah.
some of the main things that have gone really
Sounds
well
good.
and we've really enjoyed this year. But first, some stats. We put on 34 Monzo events this year, which includes things like our monthly open offices and special one-off events like our Pride event and recent Monzo debate we had. And then we also have put on additional events with companies and organisations around the country, which hopefully you will have into. In all, 5,000 of you have attended in person. Who has been to a Monzo event before? And who's a first timer? Well, you're all very welcome. Thanks for coming. And in all, 35,000 people have joined in through live streams. So that's great that, if you've done that as well. So let me just go back and talk about the meetups. So we've also started doing meetups around the UK in places like Cardiff, Manchester, and we're trying to grow the events just outside London. So the Monzo community, can meet, talk, and just chat amongst yourselves about all things Monzo. Here are some of our highlights. So this is the office opening. This is the first event we had in this wonderful new space we had. We moved from just up the road past Old Street down to here, and we packed out this space. Was anyone here for that? That was a really great evening. Thank you for coming. And yeah, that was a Q&A with Tom again. And this is one we did in Liverpool with an organisation called Liverpool Girl Geeks, one of the many organisations we work with, and they were doing workshops around women in tech. We also worked with a company called Develop Her recently, and what they were doing was putting on workshops around how to take the next step in your career, and we were really privileged they wanted to come and use our space to do that. And we recently put on the first of what we called our Monzo debate series. This one was around social media, and it's something we want to continue into next year as well.
We ran a series called Tech for Good this year, going off the back of the popularity of some of our early hackathons. We wanted something that was for sort of creative technical community to really show us sort of bedroom projects, things they've been working on around a theme. So the Tech for Good one we did in collaboration with Nevada. It was all about things that developers had created, which basically improve people's lives from on an individual level, but on a kind of wider social basis as well. The Next Gen Financial Inclusion event was part of the Monzo 2.0. In June or July, the Monzo app went to version 2, and so we ran a series of events that were kind of looking forward to the future about where Monzo could sit in the wider context of the future. So Next Gen Financial Inclusion is something that we're really passionate about. We hosted a panel discussion in Cardiff, which is kind of a second home for us now, and it was really, really great. It was really great.
Nudge, would you like to talk about the Pride event?
Yeah, so up until we ran the Pride event, most of our events focused on what Monzo were doing, or they had a kind of a tech slant to them, and we realized that we should kind of be mirroring and reflecting the makeup of the people who work at Monzo too, and understand that we have a voice in many other communities than just the sort of developer and tech community. So this felt like a really great opportunity to celebrate that. We had some amazing panelists and amazing speakers, including Peter Tatchell, and it was a really great feeling in the room. It's something we want to continue. Look out for more of the same next year. We had our first International Women's Day event this year as well, so we'll be building on those foundations for some other great events in 2019.
And yeah, internally at Monzo, I think we have a great learning culture, and that's something that we wanted to bring to our community as well. So we put on our first kind of festival events last month now, and that was called From Scratch. And the idea being it was a series of workshops run by experts teaching you how to sort of start something new, pick up a new hobby, pick up a new skill. So we had people running workshops on how to start a podcast, how to get to grips with GitHub. Harry, our writer, ran a writing session. So that's something that we want to continue doing, like knowledge sharing amongst the Monzo community, because we have so many smart and skillful people.
Yeah, so overall this year, I think our position as a community has really changed, and we've wanted to, whilst it's been really cool welcoming you to the offices to tell you about what we're working on and how things work behind the scenes at Monza, something that's been a lot more rewarding has been being able to be the backdrop for a lot of important conversations on how we can make people's lives better. We've done a lot of work collaborating with community members and organisations who are doing great stuff in the space that we just can't at the moment, and becoming a kind of platform for discussion and creating an environment where attendees and industry experts and everyone can come into a room and feel safe and happy and comfortable sharing some things that I've been kind of really surprised, but in the best way possible about, has been something really special and really rewarding for us. We want to build on that foundation in 2019. Monzo is all about improving people's lives, making money work for everyone, but in the wider context of things, we really want to be the people to kind of help facilitate those conversations and create a kind of inclusive, safe space for everyone to feel like they have a voice in those discussions. So it's been a real privilege for anyone who has been to any of these events over the last year to meet you, to have you involved in what we're building here, and I really look forward to seeing some of you in the new year at some of our events.
Cool. So thank you. So can we get a round of applause just for the Monzo community? Thank you. I'd now like to introduce Tom, our CEO. Tom will be talking for a few minutes, and then we'll have a brief Q&A afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. Oh no. Sorry. Okay, I think I saved it. We've got these new Britney mics. I think they're really fun. Just let me grab my notes. Thank you. So, welcome to Monzo. I'm going to look back on 2018, a few thoughts, and sort of look forward to 2019 as well. The bulk of this, though, will be questions from you. I'm very happy to answer. I'll be here for sort of 30 or 40 minutes taking questions, and I'll be around some drinks afterwards as well. The first thing, though, I want to remark on is I definitely know there are a handful of people who came to our very first community events back on Paul Street, I think, where I'd typically sit on a window ledge, and it wasn't big enough that I'd need a microphone. And there are a couple of people over there who were at the events back in the day. And if you followed us through the sort of Monzo offices, we had an office on Epworth Street that was sort of shared with homeless people. I mean, genuinely, we'd have homeless people sleeping outside the door quite a lot. We'd have community events there. Then to our upgrade to the City Road office, where we'd have, for the first time, a dedicated community and event space. That's where I think we really started to professionalize. But if you compare where we are now with the Britney mic and the live stream and this fabulous event space, it's almost inconceivable back in the day to imagine we'd have come this far, simply from the audio and visual setup, let alone all the other things we'd achieved. So I think it's just a nice reflection of the maturing journey of Monzo over the years. So I'm going to look back on 2018, and Naji has provided me with some very useful notes. Oh yes, the first thing was getting rid of the prepaid scheme. So many of you will know we started life as a prepaid card. The same Hot Coral card, the same app, but it was based on another bank's technology, another bank's license. Back in January of this year, 90-odd% of our customers were still on prepaid, which is bizarre. We still had a pretty horrific migration to go through. We'd been working on it for 4 or 5 months. We didn't think it would end, but by about February or March, it was over. And in April, we managed to shut the prepaid scheme down for good. And now we're on 1.2 million current accounts. So bearing in mind in January, we had practically 0 current accounts. The end of 2018 will finish on probably 1.3 million. So to create 1.3 million current accounts from a standing start, we're now the fastest growing bank in the UK, with about a 50% lead over any other bank. I think the next closest is Nationwide on about 800,000 accounts, new accounts per year. So we're about 1.3 million new accounts this year. I think next year we'll probably add 2 million new accounts, which is really fun, especially when you go and tease the big banks about it. So getting rid of the prepaid was a huge, huge step because it gave us a platform on which we could build. The problem with prepaid, and actually the reason why the product development towards the back end of 2017 wasn't as fast, is because we always had this dual platform problem, that we were maintaining prepaid whilst bringing up the current account platform and had to migrate everyone over. And so whenever anyone came up with a great idea, the problem was we'll have to implement this on prepaid, that we're going to throw it away in 3 months, and we'll have to re-implement it on current account. And so we focused all of our efforts on the migration, and some of the customer feedback was, nothing's changed. Sort of like that was the point. The metaphor we used at the time was like we had this sort of 747, this jumbo jet in mid-flight, and everyone's sort of pretty happy on this jumbo jet. And our challenge was to bring up a new jumbo jet, build it in mid-air, and transfer over 500,000 people. And the main comment was, that wasn't very exciting. It's like, no one died. That was the point. But moving on to the current account gave us a single platform to develop on it, and it enabled us to move much, much faster. And so we're able to release things like all sorts of POTS rules, Roundup, we introduced the gambling block, we've added a savings account with Investec, we've added cash deposits. And now, I think the really exciting thing now is it feels like we're at the starting line. It feels like we spent 3.5 or 4 years getting to base camp. I've never climbed Everest. I've certainly never even been to base camp. But it feels like we've sort of done all this hard work to get to this point that very few other new companies, new startups get to. But actually, we're not here to get to base camp. We're here to go to the summit. But the amazing thing is it feels like we've got such a solid foundation now in terms of the amazing community, the team of 550-odd people now, the 1.3 million customers as it will be by the end of the year, that we've now got this incredible stepping stone to go further. And so I want to talk a little bit about what that further means in 2019. And we started this company not because we particularly wanted to start a bank, actually, but because we very deeply felt that people's financial lives were complicated, unnecessarily complicated and burdensome. To stay on top of the 15 or 20 things that touch your money requires a superhuman amount of organisation and effort. It's things like switching your gas and electricity bill every single year so you're not getting ripped off. The same for your car insurance or your home insurance or mobile phone bill or your broadband, let alone your savings accounts. I had money in an ISA that my granny set up for me, earning less than a percent interest, or any investments you have, or now that everyone's getting basically auto-enrolled into pensions, making sure your pension isn't ripping you off, or now that new students are coming out of university paying 6% interest on their student loans, that they're refinancing them at an effective rate, or that your car insurance isn't ripping you off, or that you're being really effective in collecting all of the cashback and loyalty points that my mum used to cut out the coupons that Tesco sent her to cash them in. To be really, really on top of all of those things is basically impossible. And that's why we started Monzo. To take care of every single problem around your money and automate it, to move mountains in the background, to give you back time and put money in your pocket. That's really why we're here. And someone asked me a question at a community event this year, which was like, that's all great talk, but what have you actually done? I think that's a really, really fair criticism. What we've done is get to the starting line. We've got a banking license, we've built a ton of great technology, we've hired an amazing team and acquired 1.2 million customers. Because this is a multi-sided marketplace problem. Right? It's a sort of chicken and egg almost. You can't go and work with providers until you've got the customers. And so we focus on building the bank, getting the current account up, getting the technology in place, and building the customer base. And now we're in an incredibly powerful position that we can go to suppliers, and instead of saying, well, who are you? They say, we would love to give you an exclusive deal for Monzo customers. What I really, really love is that over the last 10 years, all these big companies have used their market power for their own advantage. And as customers, we sort of come second. And what I'm really, really looking forward to is building up a juggernaut of Monzo customers and a company who's going to use that to then go and fight with big companies on behalf of all of you, to make sure that you're not getting ripped off on your gas and electricity or your phone bill or paying a crappy interest rate on your savings, whatever it is. I think we can use that enormous collective might to fight for normal people. I think that's a really, really cool idea. And 2019 is about taking shots towards that sort of hub and spoke model. And to be really, really frank, we haven't really taken shots yet. We've got the TransferWise integration and Investec savings accounts, which are both absolutely great. But I want to do that 100 times bigger. So that's what 2019 is going to be about. We've got some really, really exciting stuff in store for you all. I won't give away too many of the secrets yet. But some absolutely mind-blowing things, I think, in store. When you see it, you see it and think, I would have never imagined that. And then you think, why is this not the way that every single bank works? I think that's the magical power of technology. So that's in store for 2019. Yeah, that's it. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really, really glad to have had all of your support along the way. The crowdfunding this week, I think, was just one reflection of that huge depth of community support. So we raised £20 million, and when it went open to the public, we sold out the remaining £18 million in just over 2 hours. Someone compared that to a small AIM listing we basically did on our own platform with our own customer base in 2 hours. Brewdog still have the record for the biggest crowdfunding at £26 million. But while it took us 2 hours, it took them 1 year. So I think that's an amazing testament. And similarly with the Times articles, which came out last week, and I was disappointed with because I thought they were inaccurate and misleading. But the strength of sentiment that we saw in response to that article, both from Monzo customers who were pissed off, but also just normal Times readers who were like, this is garbage. I think that it was incredibly stressful for the team here to deal with that, but the huge, huge support from our community really, really gave us a lot of comfort, like sort of reinforced this idea that we are trying to do the right thing. We may not always get it right, but I think we're always pointed in the right direction, and having your help is a real part of why. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your support. I'm open for questions for sort of... maybe I shouldn't have more of these. I'm joking. 20 minutes or so, and then I'll be around for the rest of the evening to chat with people. So do we have a roaming mic? Wonderful. Gentleman here.
Hi, Tom.
Hello.
Same question I ask you every time. When's the next hackathon?
Ooh, can't commit to it, but I really hope that's one of the things we start doing in 2019. I think we've got some solid plans, so fingers crossed.
And one more question, if I may. With the open banking stuff that's going on, how have you, worked with that, and what's your next steps with that?
Yeah, not at all yet. But a lot more to come in 2019. I think I'll talk some sort of more about our plans there. So open banking, I think someone much smarter than me said something like, people generally overestimate the impact of new technology in the short term and underestimate it in the long term. I think that's what's happening in open banking. I think it is transformative. The ability to extract data from other accounts and show it in one place, I think powers a load of other stuff. I don't think in itself it's kind of compelling, and that's been the problem so far. Just account aggregation on its own isn't the killer kind of use case. But I think what we need to do at Monzo is give you full visibility of all of your assets, I guess, like lumps of money, investment accounts, savings accounts, and your liabilities, your student loan, your mortgage, your debts. And open banking helps us fill those gaps. So we want to kind of give you a broad view of your money, and then we want to go really, really deep on each transaction or each pot of money. So if you use Slack, one of the things I love about that product is you paste a link in, and they go and do a ton of work in the background to fetch all of the information they can find on it, including getting your login details and going to the website to give you a preview of what that link says. So no longer is it just a dumb link, it's actually a whole preview of that thing. And so Slack becomes this really interactive hub for company communications. imagine if your bank account did that. So it's not just a transaction at Pret, but suddenly it's the entire receipt, like everything you bought at Pret. And then it becomes, you've shopped there 4 times, the 5th time you get your coffee for free. Or it's at Tesco to give your entire itemized receipt data. And then Coca-Cola comes and says, hey, you're buying loads and loads of Coke, why don't we ship that to you? Like you seem to buy so much Coca-Cola, we can just send it to you in bulk. Or your mobile phone bill, it's not just the amount, but how much data you use and what tariff you're on, so that we can find you a better deal and auto-switch you. So unraveling each transaction, giving you the metadata around it, I think is also super, super important. And so that's a lot of the foundational work that I think we'll be doing into 2019 to then enable the smart control, if that makes sense, the sort of this idea that it should be like you have a financial advisor looking at every single part of your income and expenditure to figure out where you could be doing it better or where Monzo could do it better for you. That's a sort of the essence of it. So open banking is a piece in that puzzle. Yes. Next question.
What do you do better than everybody else, and what do you attribute your success to?
Ooh. I'll answer what do we do better and actually what do we do worse, because I don't think we're great at everything. I think we have a lot of amazing human beings who deeply care about other people. That's other staff members and community members and customers. And so I think we're really, really good at putting the customer genuinely at the heart of everything we do, and everything is to serve that. I think the big banks have a financial product at the heart, and everything else serves that. It's the mortgage, it's the credit card. And so the customers kind of orbit around the sun, which is the mortgage and the credit card. At Monzo, everything orbits around the customer. And so deep customer centricity, I think, is at the heart of everything we do, and incredible design thinking that really, really unlocks a kind of a product that that taps sort of deep into your psyche, basically. What don't we do so well? Make revenue out of that. Honestly. I think we've been amazing at acquiring customers, engaging and retaining those customers. I think our customer support overwhelmingly has been very good. And cost reduction we've been really, really good at this year. We've managed to renegotiate a ton of our contracts. We've in-house technology. We've brought the cost of service and account down really, really, really low. We've just not driven a lot of revenue off it. There have been conversations where making revenue has almost seemed like a sort of dirty kind of like, or immoral thing, actually. It's weird that people care so deep about the customer, almost this instinctual reaction against revenue, which I really actually don't think is healthy. I think if we're providing something of value to the customer, we should be really proud that we were able to charge an amount. The customer still had a huge value surplus. That makes sense. So, but customer centricity, in short.
Yeah. Do you not make transactions? Like, do you not make money from transactions from the cards?
Yep.
Because that's what Revolut does.
Yes, not a lot. So Revolut adds a 1% markup to their foreign exchange on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's about 50% of their transactions. So they claim to give you the interbank rate, and they add a margin on for about half of all of their transactions. So they make a 1% fee. We don't do that. We just pass on the rate that we get. We make a little bit on interchange, but we pay a lot of that back to MasterCard for the sort of benefit of using their network. So our main revenues right now, card interchange, then the lending we do, and we'll be expanding that, so overdrafts and term loans, and then basically partnership revenues. So that's currently very, very small, and that's the bit that really will grow over the next 5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
I'm sorry it was a stressful and difficult, last week you said with the time story, but look on the bright side. There's no such thing as bad news. What a great way to publicise that you now have up to £1,000 for most of your customers available as an overdraft. New product, great publicity.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about the Financial Times article, the one that talked more about crowdfunding and actually how important it is in this day and age with a millennial demographic to actually be using crowdfunding to not just raise money, because it was a relatively small part of the Series E,
Yep.
but also having people that are evangelists, not just customers, but investors.
Yeah.
Going into next year, how is that going to change how you operate? You now will have 36,000 or 34,000 extra owners of the bank. What difference is that going to make into 2019?
Yeah. So crowdfunding, first of all, crowdfunding is something we do because we genuinely believe that it's important, and it's a way of saying thank you to our customers who've been such great supporters from the start. It is a very slow, very costly way of raising money. It certainly is not an easy way to raise an extra 20 million. In fact, our VC investors were very happy to give us the extra 20, and we had to fight quite hard to protect 20 million for our community, you guys. And I'm really, really glad we did. And it does deepen the engagement. I think that's absolutely amazing. I think what I'd like to do is start doing much more. Now we have 36, probably 40,000 in total crowd investors, I would guess. I'd like to start doing much more engagement. So things like exclusive events for investors, both digital events and in-person events. I'd really love to have an AGM. I think that would be really, really fun. It's like renting out like Shoreditch Town Hall or something. I'm looking at Naji. And actually just having a really big event where we just actually properly review the kind of sort of investor update. I think that would be great. Broadly that. I mean, I think, broadly that. If you have ideas, I'd love to hear them afterwards.
It's very hard to win, your evangelists. It's really hard, but it's also really easy to lose them.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to keep ensuring customers are absolutely the heart of every single thing we do, and using that to build a product that we're proud to charge for. I think that's something we can't be afraid of. We're not a charity, right? We are a profit-making business, and we're not going to be around in 20 years if we don't make revenue. But I think we can do so in a way that puts our customers first and means that we only ever benefit when our customers are benefiting first. Like we need to eat last. I think it's a good sort of metaphor. I don't know what's happened to the screen. Doesn't matter. Where's the next question? Here we go. Great. Hey.
Hi, my name is Botond. I'm an entrepreneur, former VC. So I would venture to guess that the data on my transactions, meaning that what I buy, for how much I buy, and when I buy things is valuable. And I don't see solutions where I can actually sell it. I know that a lot of people are concerned about this, but I would be happy to sell that data to anyone who buys for that, who pays for that. And there is no way to sell it. And I would venture to guess that it is real valuable. And what's your view on that?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question. I think the data is valuable en masse, but I think when you cut it down to the individual user, you're talking about pennies. And so you might be willing to sell it, but you might get 10p for it. And so it's just not compelling. And as well as the data being valuable, user trust is also really, really valuable. And I think if we sold the data and lost the user trust, I think that would be a very bad exchange for us. However, I think there are a number of obvious examples where we can come to you with a clear opportunity to exchange some of like your either personal data or your transaction data with a merchant in return for something. A great example is your gas and electricity. Just sharing how much you use on your gas and electricity is a precursor to saving £300 on your gas and electricity. And so that's the kind of offer where we'll come to you and say, look, we think you can do this, give us one piece of information, we'll make the rest happen. Or sharing your data with your local coffee shop so that you opt into the, buy 4 coffees and get the 5th free. And maybe they get your name and your email address so they can, you opt into their mailing list, for example. I'm not saying we'll necessarily do that, but that's an example, again, where you can kind of share your data in return for a benefit. But I think it's just really crucial that you do it with a clear purpose. So you're sharing this particular piece of information with this person, and with explicit opt-in, so you're consenting to it. Very luckily, that's almost the exact principle of GDPR. So I think we're well aligned with that, but we're sort of exploring the boundaries of that, if that makes sense. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
We'd like to take a question from the live stream on YouTube.
Great.
James asks, where do you see the business in the short-term future, 5 years, for example?
In the short term and in 5 years?
Both.
Okay, great. So in 2019, we'll end 2018 on 1.3 million customers or so. We're adding about 100,000 accounts a month or so. And so without doing very much different, we should finish 2019 on 2.5 million customers. I think we'd like to be more ambitious. I think we'd like to go for 3 or 3.5 or even more customers in the UK in 2019. That's growth. We'll continue to grow the lending business. I think that'll drive relatively significant revenue. But I really want to take more bets on this sort of hub and spoke model, this financial control center. So I think by the end of 2019, I'd really like to see 5 or 6 different verticals there. Not in a, you say marketplace, and people imagine marketplace like a money supermarket kind of list of, you could use these 5 car insurance providers. And that's not what we're about. We're about figuring out the exact right point, the exact right provider, and giving you a one-tap experience and saying, great, we'll take care of the rest, to put money back in your pocket. So really, really deeply integrated hub and spoke partnership model, not a like money supermarket, here's a list of 10 providers, you figure it out. So that's, I think, in the short term. In 5 years, who knows? I mean, Monzo's not even 5 years old now, so looking forward to another 5 years is so difficult. But the ambition is tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of users across the world. And so that will mean internationalizing. Primarily, we'll look at Europe and the US because they're, broadly speaking, the large developed markets. I think there's a huge opportunity in developing markets, but the economics and sort of financial structures there mean that you have to tweak the business model quite a lot to be able to focus there. But even that is something we'd love to do in the longer term. But we're probably not talking 3 or 4 years. We're probably talking 8 or 10 years. So broadly, yeah, I think 2019 is the theme is taking more shots. So I'm really, really excited. It does feel like we're just at the starting line. And I'm excited to run the race properly.
Business accounts, do you have a timeline from like beta testing to launching? And the second question related to that is like how you're planning to build it differently from an infrastructure point of view compared to the other fintech services out there?
So we announced that we are applying for the RBS funding. That's both incentivized switching and the capability and innovation fund, which is basically a big cash grant. We'll be in Pool B, which I think goes live in March or April time. And that funding will enable us to accelerate our plans. So I can't give exact timelines. I think the initial product launch, we'll do it in exactly the same way we did with Monzo, sort of for retail customers, which is to start with a very small group, to start with a very limited product. And that means probably micro SMEs, i.e. sole traders, people for whom the existing product is not a million miles away from what they need already, and then rapidly iterate to figure out what they need on top of it. In terms of infrastructure, we can use quite a lot of what we've got already. We've got a MasterCard connection, we've got a faster payments connection, we have a banking license. So the amount of new build is initially at least, is mostly around the onboarding and identification flow. So instead of know your customer, it's know your business. But where your business is a sole trader, that's basically the same. So not a huge difference. As you creep up and up and up, there's more customization needed. So if you're a 5-person organization, it's a bit different. Once you're a 50-person organization, you probably have a dedicated finance team. Then you're looking at things like multi-user login, multi-stage approval. So this person submits this expense, someone else approves it. But fundamentally, it's the same hub and spoke model, basically, where for a company, the current account feels like the nervous system of the company. It's where all of the payments flow in and out of, and it connects into things like payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, your just accounting software, your card acquiring, your direct debit acquiring, if you do that, transaction processing. So being the hub and exposing APIs to plug it into all of the other software solutions you use, I think is really, really exciting. Like payroll software shouldn't really be an industry. Honestly, that is not a hard problem. I hope no one here is from a payroll provider. But with the right APIs, that just becomes a few lines of code. So that's, I think, the interesting thing. We have a finance team here that has engineers embedded in the finance team, basically automating and building tooling. Our vision is that becomes, that sort of automated finance system becomes the reality for any small business. At the moment, it's this really clunky, arcane system where you have bookkeepers who manually reconcile. It's absolutely crazy. These systems should talk to each other and just straight through process with sort of by default. it's really surprising they don't. So that's sort of the vision for business banking. But we're not going to be serving kind of the Shell or BPs of the world really anytime soon. It's starting at the micro end.
An extension of business banking.
Yep.
What about support for multi-currency accounts and maybe cryptocurrency as well being held on the Monzo account?
It sounds like you want a Revolut account.
Are you suggesting I should just walk across the street now?
Yeah. So, multi-currency. Today, I don't. For the majority, and probably the vast majority of our users, a multi-currency account today does not solve a problem they have. The problem most of our users have is I go on holiday once or twice or maybe 3 times a year, and I want to use my card and know I'm not getting ripped off. There is a small segment of users who travel abroad to work and are paid in one currency and spend in a different currency, or might have a holiday home in a different country, and for whom multi-currency is really, really important. But unless you're one of those people, or you're a foreign exchange trader, there's limited value in storing multiple currencies in accounts. I mean, the counter-argument, though, I think, is that bank accounts in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, by default, will just let you select from a drop-down. But I don't feel like it's a use case for the 90% of the population. I feel like it's a use case for 10% of the population.
But it is for small businesses.
For small businesses, perhaps. It might.
Especially if you take internet business.
Yeah, and it's certainly US dollars, especially. I mean, one of our investors is Stripe, and so they're a big card acquirer. They have the Atlas product, which lets you start a business and gives you a bank account. I think that's a really interesting collaboration we could do with them. So yes, possibly. I think it's something. It's not an absolute priority. We go to our customers and say, "What's stopping you make Monzo your main account?" Multi-currency accounts is very, very, very long way down the list. It's like savings accounts, investment accounts, cash deposits. Really, that's the bulk is those three. But yeah, fair enough. And then cryptocurrency, I don't know. Bitcoin is now trading at what, $3,000 or something. I think it's been a tough year. That is for sure not a mainstream interest. We're not going to add a roulette table in the Monzo app either. Like, not anytime soon.
We'd like to take another question from the live stream. Dan asks, when is Monzo coming to mainland Europe? And is Brexit a threshold for coming to the EU soon?
Unfortunately, Brexit means we lose our passporting right. If it happens, I think we're all watching the vote on Tuesday and seeing if we even still have a government after Tuesday. Genuinely, I think we're in a really, really, really tricky place as a country. Without expressing any views on the merits of Brexit, I don't see where we go forwards in the literally next week. But operating across mainland Europe means probably establishing a second office and getting a second license in somewhere like Ireland or Germany or Lithuania. Actually, sort of emailing around, being sort of like, get a banking license here. But we need a second license, basically. Not a top priority for 2019, but we'll certainly consider it for the medium term. Two more questions. Okay, we have 2 more questions, and I'll be around for drinks and stuff afterwards. But please don't all come and. I'll sort of circulate.
Hi. You said that you crowdfunded. Was it 20 million?
That's right.
Why did you decide to not break the record? Was that like a specific decision? Because it genuinely sounds like you decided to try and keep yourself out of the news and not break the 26 million. If you got to 20 million in 2 hours, but then 26 million took took a year. Why did you not go to 40 or 100? Or
Tristan, what's the answer? You want why didn't we do that? It was really, really hard to get the allocation that we did off our investors, honestly. Like, they were... I think it's a reflection of how keen they were on Monzo, that they wanted to put a lot of money to work, and they were quite annoyed already that they weren't getting the 20 million. And but in retrospect, not pushing it. I mean, 30 would have been also a nice round number and got us over that line. I don't know. I think we got a ton of press out of it anyway, so maybe that's a record we can save for next year to break, perhaps.
Hi, Tom.
Hey.
Congratulations on launching the cash deposits via PayPoint.
Thank you.
But do you think it's fair to charge people to pay in cash to their own bank accounts?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. For a number of reasons. One is they have a choice of many, many banks in the UK, and they can choose many other banks that offer it for free. Secondly, this myth of free banking is really, really hard to sustain. The way the big high street banks maintain it is they give you a bunch of stuff that costs them money and then basically steal money off the poorest customers by imposing hidden fees and charges. So things like you exceed your overdraft and you're charged £12 a transaction, or they put a 3% commission on foreign exchange, stuff that you don't really notice. So what we've done is say, look, if you want to put cash in, there's a £1 fee. It's clear and it's upfront. If you want to use it, that's the cost. If you use loads and loads of cash, go to another high street bank and they'll happily service you. The problem is cash is really, really expensive because you end up having to have like armed guards and vans that drive the cash around that criminals can attack and steal. And then you take it to a servicing, like a big, big warehouse, like I call a cash processing center. For a small business, cash is actually more expensive to handle than debit cards. So I really don't think it's a fundamental human right. And if you do need to use loads and loads of cash, there are plenty of other banks out there. So I'd prefer a model rather than like the average mainstream customer being subsidized by the very poorest in society. I'd prefer that everyone pays for what they use.
Wouldn't this put off younger people? Like my brother's just turned 18, so he's getting paid in like cash, like allowance, weekly allowance. Wouldn't this put off younger customers?
It might do, and that is a cost we'll have to bear. I think over the next, actually quite a short period of time, I think many, many, many more businesses are going to like turn to online payments. They're just more efficient and cheaper. So that might be true for your brother today, but I think the equivalent brother in 5 years' time is going to be paid straight to his bank account. So, okay. One more question, then we will wrap up.
Thanks, Tom. One of the great things about Monzo is kind of financial literacy it's giving people. And as a dad, kind of, I would like that to be available to my kids, children's accounts, actually just to give them that kind of exposure. Because what they get is a crappy kids account from a high street bank.
Yep.
They might get a shit toy and something. But actually what I want them to have is an experience where they can actually see the money, see what's happening to it.
Yep.
It's probably not an immediate plan, but is it in the pipeline?
It's one of the projects that's on this, I don't know what the right metaphor is. It's like being queued up for prioritization in 2019. It's not to say we'll definitely do it. If we do it, it will very likely be a paid-for product. The customers of that age incur a ton more cost than revenue they drive. And again, back to the point about sort of some customers subsidizing others. And the earlier point is about being totally allergic to revenue. I think we need to solve both those points. And so probably what we'll look for is a kind of paid-for family account that gives you, say, 5 or even 6 cards. So you and a partner, 1, 2, 3, 4 kids, and actually cards for your cleaner or your nanny or whatever it is, so that you can sort of control it all in one place for a monthly fee. That's on the cards. So if you're really keen on that, please comment on our community forum and say, I'd love to pay for this. That'd be great. Thank you so much for some amazing questions. We'll wrap up there and I'll be around. Cheers for coming in.
Great. Thanks everyone for your great questions. You're welcome to stick around. Please do grab more drinks. The party rages on.
Yeah, and also help yourself to prezzies under the tree. We did have some crackers, but then when I opened the box, they were fill your own crackers, so they were empty. So if you'd like one, I can grab one for you. But yeah, enjoy, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.